Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, back with another black and white Pokemon upgrade. Today, we're going to be discussing some great boosts that Quagsire gets this generation, so let's get started. So first off, as some of you may know already, Quagsire was actually the original water ground Pokemon that has now become an increasingly common typing on things like Gastrodon and Swampert, and now even the Gamma frog thing in Gen 5. But this is actually really cool typing and only gives you a 4 times weakness to grass, which is great, but also bad on the other hand because any grass type attack is pretty much going to take you out, which is unfortunate. However, Quagsire, being a unique Pokemon, still never got a lot of use, and that's why it was in the lower tiers previously in the 4th gen game, mainly due to the fact that it doesn't have the best stats in the world. However, with 95 HP and 85 physical defense, you would often see Quagsire as a common walling Pokemon, and one that normally held Toxic and was able to recover stall because of it getting the move Recover as well. So that was kind of like its main use previously. It also has some pretty decent attack where you would run a curse set with it as well, so that was also something that a lot of people made use of with Quagsire. However, due to the fact that it doesn't have the best special attack or special defense, it was never really capable of being some kind of dual wall or dual attacker because you pretty much know what it's capable of doing. However, it does possess two unique abilities previously, one of which is pretty much completely useless now because of the nerfs on Explosion and Self-Destruct, but Damp is a ability that prevents those moves from occurring, but Water Absorb was more commonly used for Quagsire due to the fact that you can switch it in on a Pokemon who is attacking with a Water type move and then gain a fourth of your health back because of this. But in the Dream World, it actually gets a really unique ability known as Unaware, which was only held previously by Bidoof and Bibarel, but now a couple other Pokemon also get it this generation. But what it does is it ignores the stat boosts and stat drops of your opponent when taking damage or giving damage. And what I mean by this is if your opponent receives some kind of physical defense drop and you, as Quagsire, attack it with a physical move, you'll be hitting it for damage but not actually taking the physical defense drop into account, meaning that you'll just be doing regular damage to it. And similarly, if your opponent is boosting up its moves with something like Swords Dance or something like that, and they attack you with a physical move, they'll just be doing regular damage to you, and you will actually ignore the fact that they have like +2 or whatever stat boost they get, which is a really great thing for Quagsire, and definitely can allow it to be a even more effective physical kind of wall thing. But unfortunately, though, and something that you need to be aware of if you're using this ability, is that if your Quagsire ever gets taken out, your opponent now has all those stat boosts they just got, and they could potentially do a lot of damage to your team, which is really unfortunate. And I've had experience where this happened to me, so I'm just warning you guys about this. But make sure Quagsire stays alive if you're using the Unaware ability. But as for that ability, it also gets an interesting move that I can make use of, which you will see in this first set. But um, keep in mind that, Quagsire still probably won't be the best Pokemon ever, even with these boosts that it gets this generation. But it's still something to potentially be considered, but also something that will definitely help it out a lot if it stays in the lower tiers. So with this first set, we're going to be turning Quagsire into a special attacker, which is something that it previously was really unable to do due to the fact that it does not have the best special attack stat in the world. So first, we're going to give it a modest nature to increase its special attack but lower its physical attack. And then we're going to be using the ability Water Absorb, just so that we can have that immunity to water and also allow it to be able to heal up its own HP when your opponent attacks with your water move. Now as for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into HP to give you your max HP, 120 into special attack to give you some good special attack to work with, and then 136 EVs into special defense to give you some okay special defense to go along with your pretty okay natural physical defense, thus allowing you to take hits fairly well, on both sides at least, but still nothing compared to like a normal defensive Quagsire set. Now as for the item, it's going to be leftovers, which obviously will allow you to recover HP at the end of every turn. Now for the moves, the first one we're going to be making use of is known as Acid Bomb, which is a really awesome move introduced into this generation that lowers your opponent's special defense by 2 stages without fail. Now because of this move, we can actually make use of Quagsire's somewhat decent special attack because it'll be going up against a -2 special defense of whatever your opponent's special defense stat is. And with this drop, we're either going to be making use of Boiling Water as your first main stab move, and then Ice Beam or Focus Blast, depending on which one you want as your secondary attack move. Both of these moves obviously have their uses, but if you go with Ice Beam, just be aware that you probably won't be able to really hurt any other water types for super effective damage due to due to the fact that they resist water and ice, but that is just one problem with the set. However, with Focus Blast, you get some better type coverage, but you do have a problem hitting potential water flying type Pokemon you may run into, like Gyarados or something like that. But as for your last move, we're going to be using Recover, just because it's a pretty standard move on Quagsire and will allow it to keep up its HP as you're hopefully lowering your opponent's special defense and dealing out special attacking damage with either of these moves. Also, Boiling Water does have that chance to burn, which is great and definitely will help out Quagsire due to the fact that it will lower your opponent's physical attack and thus allow Quagsire to take hits a little bit better. But this is just one set that Quagsire can utilize this generation due to the fact that it gets access to a new move known as Acid Bomb and thus can allow Quagsire to be a fairly powerful special attacker. As for this last set, it's going to be one that makes use of the Unaware ability in quite a unique way. So first we're going to give Quagsire a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack, and then obviously we're going to be using Unaware. But for the EV spread, we're going to put 252 into HP to give you your max HP again, 128 into defense to give you some pretty good physical defense, and then 128 into special defense to give you some pretty good special defense as well. As for the item, again, we are going to be using leftovers. For the moves this time, though, the first one we're going to be making use of is either Earthquake or Waterfall, depending on what kind of type coverage you want, and both of these are stab moves due to its water ground typing, so it's really up to you which one you want to make use of. Personally, though, Waterfall is probably the better option due to the fact that there are far less Pokemon that have Water Absorb or something like that than there are Pokemon that are flying or levitating, which Earthquake will obviously not allow you to hit. As for the second move, though, these two are actually kind of the crux of whatever kind of set you want to use with this Quagsire. The first of which is Stockpile, which is one of my favorite moves in the game, and it increases your physical defense and increases both your physical and special defense by 1 stage each time you use it. Now the reason why this this move is so great is because of the fact that along with the Unaware ability, your opponents boosting their stats won't be able to do a lot of damage to you. However, you boosting your own defenses means that you'll be able to take their hits that much better. And with a +1 boost in both defenses with, the EVs and nature, you're going to be having over 300 defense with just one stockpile. And if your opponent sees you doing this, they might either try to get a Pokemon that can easily take you out like a grass type, try to roar or whirlwind you out, or try to set up their own stats, but in that situation, they won't be able to do anything anyways because of Unaware. So even with their own boosts, again, they can't do any damage to you, and will do increasingly or decreasing damage to you because of the fact that you're increasing your defenses. But also with this, you could go with Swagger instead, which is really unique when used in combination with Unaware, due to the fact that this move normally boosts your opponent's physical attack by 2 stages and confuses them, but since you have the Unaware ability, you can pretty much ignore the physical attack boosts that they're getting from Swagger and pretty much just use it as a confusion move. On the other hand, though, the opponent still takes extra damage from Swagger's increased attack boost, so this is really cool because of the fact that they'll be doing even more damage to themselves with every Swagger boost, but they won't actually be able to hurt you for any more damage, which is really great with Unaware. Next, though, we have Toxic, which is pretty standard on a Quagsire, allowing you to stall things out, and with increased defense from Stockpile or help from Confusion from Swagger, you'll definitely be able to do this fairly effectively. And for your last move, we're either going to be making use of Recover or Substitute, depending on your needs or your preferences for a set like this. Recover obviously allows you to recover your HP, whereas Substitute allows you to be behind a kind of wall thing, and also allow you to not take any statuses, which is really important on the set because if Quagsire gets statused, you will not be able to really stall out your opponent as effectively as if you don't have a status or something like that. So if you can try to force like paralysis or something, that'd be really great because anything that allows you to take damage every turn, like burn or poison, is not great. But this is a pretty awesome set that I can use because of Unaware and will definitely be very effective at walling opponents due to the fact that they can't set up on you and you can set up defensively on them or increase their attack and allow them to take themselves out in confusion. But that is pretty much it for Quagsire, and that's pretty much it for my showcase on its new abilities and moves. So I hope you guys think this is pretty cool for it. But take care and goodbye.